In this tutorial, we will demonstrate how to use your Presto-Link device and the RegO app to perform a system pressure test. This test is performed as per your local authority having jurisdiction. Be sure to know the rules and regulations regarding pressure and time requirements. You will normally perform the system pressure test after installing new LPG piping and before the equipment has been connected. You'll need to make sure that all terminations have been plugged, capped, or isolated to not cause damage to the appliances by overpressurizing. Most commonly, air or nitrogen will be used to supply the pressure to your sealed system with a Schrader valve whereby you can pressurize the system for testing. Test duration, media, and acceptance will be determined by your authority having jurisdiction, or AHJ. Federal, state, and local ordinances and regulations should be observed at all times. Remember, this test is done before any regulator is placed into the system. You will need to have a method of introducing an inert gas into the system at 1.5 times the normal system pressure, but not less than 3 pounds or the jurisdictional pressure at your location. An air compressor or bottle of nitrogen will work, usually added into the piping through a Schrader valve. Now log into the RegO app using your credentials and navigate to your customer's account. You can begin typing the customer's name and you will receive suggestions below. Just choose your customer. Next, you will tap on the Assets button to see a list of all of the assets for that customer. We're going to go through the list and find or register the new piping on which we will perform the test. When you find it, tap the button entitled Perform Service. If you've chosen piping in the previous screen, then you will see a button on the Perform Service screen entitled Pressure Check. Tap it. Now you see all of the piping assets in the database for this customer. You can see here that there are 3 separate sections of piping. Choose one or more of these to test. We will select 2 sections to test, as we stated earlier, the interior house piping and also the main line from the main tank location to the edge of the house. So the button is entitled 2 selected to perform service. Tap it. On the next screen, you will see that there are 6 steps in this process. We're on the first one now. This screen will give you additional details about these piping assets, since you chose 2 to test. The first one here is obviously the interior piping. It's copper and it's 1/2 inch. You will need to carefully review these requirements and answer the questions accordingly before you answer the same questions for the exterior piping. If a picture of the piping is necessary, then you can snap that here as well. Answer the questions for the exterior piping in the same manner. Then tap Continue, and you will see that we are in the second step of the process. Here you will need to choose the reason for this test being performed. Is it brand new piping in a new build, or is it a new section that needs to be tested after it was installed in an existing system? Or is it piping that has been repaired after an inspection and now needs to be tested? We are assuming that this is a brand new install for the purposes of this demo. Next, you will need to indicate what the normal operating pressure of this piping will be. Since we are testing the interior piping in this demo, we will choose 11 inches of water column. Next, choose the medium that you will be using when you pressurize the piping. In this instance, we'll assume that we have an air compressor attached to the system. What would you need to place in the notes section? Well, you may want to state the reason for the test, or if we go back up to the operating pressure field and change this to Other, maybe you're using a pressure range outside of one of these selections. You can add a note indicating the pressure you are using for a test. Let's return our operating pressure to 11 inches of water column and proceed by tapping the Continue button. First, we're going to show you how to use the Presto-Link device to perform an automatic test. Later, we will demonstrate how to do a manual test. Connect your Presto-Link device to the pressurized piping. You can see on this screen the Presto-Link devices that you have previously used. You need to choose the device number that corresponds with the device attached to the section of piping that you are testing. In this instance, we know that the device serial number on our piping is 87106. Tap on that device and next you will see your pressure reading. Before pressurizing the system and connecting to the system, make sure that the Presto-Link device has been zeroed. Next, pressurize the system using your air pump, compressor, or nitrogen bottle to the required pressure as per your local authority having jurisdiction. Be sure the pressurizing device does not stay connected to the system before performing the test. Wait for the pressure to stabilize and then tap the Start Pressure Check button. Just before we begin our test, let's look at a couple of items on the screen. Notice that there is a drop-down next to the pressure reading. If you're testing using water column, you can change this. Another option is to change the duration of the test. You will always choose the pressure specified by your local authority having jurisdiction for a piping test. Let's perform a 10-minute test by tapping the Start Pressure Test button. You will see your timer start counting down. Since this is a demo, we're going to skip to the end of the test and see our results. When the test is complete, you will tap on View Results. On the next screen, you will see that we passed our test, and if a picture is needed of the piping, then feel free to use the Add Picture button to do so. If you pass the test like we did, then you'll probably want to accept the results and continue. Otherwise, return to the previous screen and start another test if needed. If you continue, you will need to see the screen and you will need to complete the technician acknowledgement. Answer each question carefully and accurately. In the United States, it's required to follow up with a leak check or gas check once the system has been fully installed with a regulator and the LPG has been introduced into the system. This may not be required outside the U.S., but check your authority having jurisdiction to be sure. Another possible requirement is for an inspector to confirm the pressure test before LPG is introduced into the system. You need to know what's required from your authority having jurisdiction. If your system is brand new, then you will likely answer no to these questions. Suppose for a moment that you did find a leak and it needs to be repaired, so you red tag the system. If you answer yes to the red tag question, more fields will appear below where you can enter the red tag ID number and the reason for tagging it. If you wish to review the customer safety acknowledgement, then make sure that the customer acknowledgement required is answered yes. You may add a picture if you want, and then you can also add recommended actions. For example, I found a leak in the main line and asked the customer to call their installer to repair, then call us back for a return visit and pressure test. Again, you need to know what actions are required in your area if a leak has been found. When you tap the Acknowledge button, you will be presented with a signature screen. Sign and accept. Next, you will see a review screen which reflects the actions that you took and the condition of the system. It shows your signature as well. When you tap Continue, you will see where the customer signs if you answered yes on the Technician Acknowledgement screen to the question Customer Acknowledgement Required. The customer safety acknowledgement can be reviewed and acknowledged. If your actions were recorded by the system, on the next screen you will see the action taken, and when the circle turns green, it is part of the customer's record. We would like to demonstrate one more procedure before we end this demo. If you do not have a Presto-Link device, then you can perform a manual leak check. To do this, rather than selecting a Presto-Link device, you can tap on the Start Pressure Check manually. On the next screen, you will see the ability to change the unit of measure. You will then enter your starting pressure gauge reading. We will enter 3 psi here. We will suppose that we performed the test and we will now enter our ending pressure of 3 psi. Indicate the length of the test by clicking the drop-down. You can also optionally enter any notes about the test or system, and/or take a photo. When you accept the results, you will find yourself at the Technician Acknowledgement screen, and we have already reviewed that in detail. We certainly hope this demo will assist you in using the RegO app to perform a system pressure test. If you have any questions, please contact us at RegO LPGNH3@regoproducts.com. Please view our website for additional instructional videos on Presto-Link and RegO products.